So what happens when two third-generation Arizona women authors who are passionate about their state start talking about experiences, insights, and memories of different places? They don't stop talking. They write a book, and then they start a podcast. Welcome to Celebrating Arizona with Julie Morrison and Lisa Schnebly Heidinger. Grab your favorite drink and settle in. We're celebrating Arizona, going everywhere from A to Z. And we're off.
Hello, Julie.
Hello. We're back. How about us?
We are. We managed to find our way back. This is show 4. We're going to run around Arizona some more. Tell us where we're going first.
So last week I told you that Tucson was on my mind, and it was on my mind again this week, or rather never left my mind. Hardly ever does anyway. But
Tucson. Georgia on my mind, right? That was a very brief and out-of-tune homage to Willie Nelson, Georgia on my mind. Tucson,
oh, yes.
Tucson. Go ahead.
There we go. Yes. Tucson definitely needs its own anthem. Anyway, it was on my mind. There's a particularly memorable scene that came to mind. And so for location purposes, what I'll tell you is that we are going to the Sam Hughes neighborhood in Tucson.
Near the university?
Near the university. Yep. It is between Himmel Park and the university campus. We are 2 blocks west of Himmel Park because that's where I used to live. And I came home one day.
Extra credit if you can tell me how far you were from the Arizona Inn.
Let's see. So I was on First Street. There's Speedway, and then Arizona Inn is on Pima. So what is that? 5 blocks?
Probably, yeah. Extra credit given.
Okay, thank you. I'll take it. Okay, so I'm coming home. I am making the turn onto First Street, and I see a tortoise climbing my curb.
Like saucer size, plate size? What are we talking here?
What do you call it? Turkey on silver service, and you pull the lid.
Holy moly.
This thing was big.
Wow. So
this thing was big.
What do you call that? The cover that goes on the platter?
Platter cover?
Wow.
What do we say?
Maybe somebody will write in and tell us.
Yeah. So a tortoise the size of a Thanksgiving turkey is, and there's an image, is climbing my curb.
Holy smoke.
And my first thought is, oh my gosh, is it lost? How did it get here? Did it escape? And then I thought, it is a turtle. Like, it could not possibly have escaped from the desert and been somewhere you didn't see when you pulled out before and just be here. I am looking at, so my first thought is this terrible concern for this creature's safety and well-being, and then some self-mockery, you idiot. And then I look across the street, kind of get a little wider view on this, and I see my neighbor from across the street that I've never seen before out in his front yard. And I roll down my window and I'm looking between him and the turtle, and he's this wiry man with sort of this long grizzly beard and longer hair.
So I'm picturing if he hit the 70s and got hippie, he would be 60-ish.
That sounds
okay.
Good. Yeah, kind of weathered skin, epitome of desert-looking man. So I'm looking at him and I'm looking at the turtle, and I start to say, do you know about, I see this turtle. Do you know about this? And he said, oh, that's George. Go on, George. So he's cheering for the turtle to make it up onto the curb, which is because it is his turtle. And I'm sorry, I'm saying turtle. It should be tortoise.
That's okay. I was thinking Rye there are people like Rye who'd be going, desert tortoise.
Yes,
but
tortoise.
We're all
yes,
watching
yes.
it, so it's
tortoise.
Okay,
good. So George the tortoise, which does have a much better ring to it, and so is cheering for this creature to clear the curb, which he does, which is no mean feat because it's at least a 6-inch curb. I mean, it's tall.
And those little legs, I can picture him scrabbling, but only in slow motion because tortoises.
No, exactly. That's exactly what it looks like. It looks like watching the most awkward gymnast ever in slow motion. Carrying the whole of the stadium on its back or something. So I realized that the tortoise belongs to the neighbor. And so I park the truck not on the tortoise and get out and talk with start talking with the neighbor. And it turns out that the tortoise is almost as old as the house.
No.
This man inherited both from his parents, and he actually grew up there
with George.
With George. And he told me that George has a burrow that he excavated himself in, quote unquote, the back, which is not something that I got to see, but, amazing. Okay. And that furthermore, he and George go to the park sometimes for a walk.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm picturing this. And he said, often?
Well, and it really would be for a creep, wouldn't it? Not a walk.
But evidently they would sometimes take a turn to and through the park. And it was just the most delightful, quirky experience that in some ways encapsulates Tucson for me, because it is authentic and lovely and
has both history and present and utterly charming in a quixotic, eclectic way.
Eclectic, yes. No mold. No possible mold.
Yeah, they can live, 80, 90, like parrots.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So, properly understood, this block is George's block in Sam Hughes' neighborhood. Yes. The rest of us are visitors. But now you know. And here's something else that's kind of fun. There are actually turtles and not tortoises very near the U of A campus, some on campus, or there used to be when I was there. On the west side, there were pools near the entrance that had swimming turtles.
For heaven's sake.
Honestly, swimming turtles. And then there was also one of my favorite places to take people, La Cucina. Yeah, because it's Spanish and not Italian.
Okay.
It was part of the courtyard shops downtown.
Yeah. I forgot about
I may have taken you there.
I don't think so, but I totally forgot about the courtyard shops. But yeah.
Well, La Cocina had a turtle pond and fountain.
Okay, let's put that on the field trip list. That sounds very cool.
Yes, and last time I was there were still turtles swimming, and so there are these wonderful creatures to be found right there in the middle of, dead center of Tucson.
God, I love that. We had a desert tortoise for a brief time named Toltec, because that's how we roll, Sedona Rye, Happy Jack.
Yes.
And he either made a burrow in our backyard and got restless and migrated up to the hill that's kind of behind our street, the big desert hill, which is what we're assuming happened, because otherwise he was a lousy excavator and there was a cave in. And he wasn't that big. So I want to think that he could have gotten out of whatever fragile little cave in he could have caused and migrated to parts that were more welcoming to his
yes. Type. Yeah, well, clearly, if George is any example,
they're pretty resilient.
A tortoise can travel.
True.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I feel better about that. Thank you. Oh, that's
you're
such
welcome.
Fun, Julie.
Yes, that is one of my very favorite memories of Tucson.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. And so, thusly shared, shall we take a small break?
My name's Paula Duncan, and I wanted to tell you about a historic neighborhood secret. It's called Bang Bang Coffee Shop, right off of Central on Vernon in Phoenix. I walked up to the window, I placed my order with Joel, an owner and one of the most personable baristas I've ever met, and eagerly anticipated my latte. It hit the spot. Joel shared that they use beans roasted locally. I also enjoyed a homemade Belgian waffle that was to die for. It's great having family-owned coffee shops nearby because it draws the community together. I love Bang Bang Coffee Shop, and I think you will too.
So now we're going to drive up to the valley. And one of the things Linz has said, and I may have told you this before, is that sometimes there is what he calls a fold in someone's character.
Yes, and I love that characterization.
This is a little bit of a fold in mine because it is a very indoor event, although it did lead me to reflect that, man, it would be fun someday to do one out on our pergola. We're going to talk about afternoon tea.
Oh, Oh, good.
And
yes, because this has come up before.
This has come up before. And the reason it's kind of a fold is one time I made Larry buy me. I took the magazine, I think it was a PBS magazine or some kind of really cool magazine, into his room and said, "This is what I want for Christmas." And it was a board game called Wild Women of the West Ride the Trail of Truth, which I thought I must own that. And they have little horses and they have little cards and you go around a little track like Candyland. But after about the first 8 minutes, the women who had gathered agreed, forget the game pieces, forget the board, we're just going to ask questions. So we would ask questions. And we got to play it someday. It's really, really fun. But what emerged over the course of the 2 or 3 hours we spent was I would love an outdoor kitchen. I would love an outdoor shower. I would love an outdoor bed, at which then somebody said, why did Tom spend the money on this? He could have put you outside and you would have been perfectly happy.
Here's a tent, love.
And by and large, that's true. Except afternoon tea isn't this time to have a house. And I first gave one, I think in about mid-90s. Lori and I had gone to afternoon tea at the Ritz in Boston. I've gone to subsequent afternoon teas in DC, New York, New Orleans, Santa Barbara. But I'm going to brag and say that I feel like the Phoenician and I are the only ones who do absolutely everything right. And I do everything right because I went to the Phoenician. And when I say right, and I realize there are 1,000 ways to do anything, and give it up for everybody who loves a different tea house here or anywhere else. To me, right includes the little silver strainer that goes around the lemon slice so you don't get any of those nasty seeds in your tea. It includes offering seconds of the sandwiches. It includes each thing getting a fresh plate when you're starting your next course. So the sandwiches and then the scones with the Devonshire cream and the preserves and the lemon curd. And then the pastry, and at least 2 or 3 teas, 1 herbal, 1 black, and 1 green or white.
Wow.
So to me, that's the right tea. Now,
I'm just picturing so many dishes at the end of this.
There's a lot. There's more than one dishwasher load at my house. I will tell you that.
Yeah, I would imagine that like you're walking over to your friend's house.
It's a very
I need a little help.
China-intensive sport. But part of the reason I love afternoon tea is because it always makes me think of Arizona pioneers. And what was even truer for them than it is for us, which is if you could have afternoon tea, it meant there was a whole lot of things you weren't having to do right.
No kidding.
Did they bring maybe 2 or 3 carefully wrapped china cups that the kids knew they must never touch up on this little shelf over here in the corner? And did they occasionally then get to invite a friend to come for a cup of tea and have that break? I hope so. And even I, who grantedly never had a terribly difficult life, love the utter respite that you get at afternoon tea.
Yes.
I just think it's very cool.
Well, it's about the last thing that we are ever invited to do by culture is to sit still.
Interesting observation.
And enjoy that. Just being in one place, not doing for a minute. Yeah. So that in itself would be a gift, and especially, yes, as you point out, in a pioneer life.
Shall we break and come back for our question?
Yes, sounds great.
All right, we break. We're broken. We break.
No, yes.
Here at Celebrating Arizona, we love pointing out local treasures. One of Julie's and my particular favorites is Lon's at the Hermosa Inn, a restaurant and bar in a gorgeous resort hotel. It began as a house by artist Lon McGargy, and we like celebrations there, even if we're just celebrating that it's a Wednesday. We like it so much we included it in our book, Arizona Friend Trips, Stories from the Road. Go, eat, drink, celebrate.
Now to the 1-2-3 part of our Celebrating Arizona podcast, the part at which I share the cup of the day, because I have way too many cups and we may as well get some good out of them and turn them into part of the show. This one is actually a teacup, not a coffee mug, with its saucer.
Yes.
The Membranio collection by Pipestone that they first released, I think, at El Tovar, 30 plus years ago. And now La Posada and Winslow sells them as well. And Larry,
nice.
of course, was the one who bought me my first Membranio and most of my Membranio. And I think I've got service for 4 and a couple of extra bowls. But I just love it. Mary Coulter designed it with the kinds of designs inspired by the Membranio pottery shards that were discovered all over northern Arizona. And they are widely available and just beautiful. That kind of characteristic red and black design.
And so can I ask about Membranio? This is not a word I've heard before.
I believe the Membranio culture was Pueblan, and I'm going to go way out on a weak historical limb and say 1,000 to 1,100, maybe 12, and that they were famed for their pottery work.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, I guess just...
Yeah, I wonder if the herd has such a wonderful collection. I wonder if there is something
I would bet you
there.
$10 they do. Yeah, because you're right.
Yeah.
They do have a wonderful collection. Yeah.
Yeah, well, marvelous. Okay.
Go Membranio.
Yeah.
So what's our...
Which has maybe never been said ever.
A very weak cheer for a very small team playing somewhere
and go where exactly? But
yeah.
This is Jules.
Heber, Eager, somewhere like that. They should have the membrane. No, they shouldn't have the membrane. Anyway, bail me out. Give me our question.
Moving on. Okay. Well, yes, our next topic, now that we've shared the mug of the day, is we're coming back to the question this time after a week of not a question. And I was thinking about it because podcasting and really most forms of media are new to me. And so the question is, how do you feel about starting something new? And sort of more context around the question is, how do you set your headspace for that? How does it feel to you that you're going to be experiencing newness? And then if that's something that you need to deal with or get past, how do you do that?
Great question. And I feel singularly able to address this because 3 years ago, 4 maybe, I don't know, I was asked to join a nonprofit, Health First Foundation, Northern Arizona, and do development work up in Sedona. And I love new. I love exciting. I love change. But Julie, there were so many times I would think, this is why people don't start something new. This is why you don't start over in a whole other career after 60, because the overwhelming, inevitable ineptitude, you've never done it before. How are you going to be good at it? So talk about truly important questions can only be answered, well, yes and no.
Yeah.
Love it and hate it, because none of us likes to feel inexpert, especially when as women of a certain age and status, we are around people who have probably done this or something like it before. And unless they are crazy gracious, we're the only one in the room saying, annual report? Philanthropy?
Yeah.
Well, philanthropy is a word probably most of us know, but you get my point. It's, I don't know what I'm doing, and most of the people in the room do.
Yes.
Which can be awfully uncomfortable. How do you feel about starting something new?
Yeah. So, well, I would say it's exciting until it's uncomfortable. And
that reminds me of Larry's, I enjoyed as much as I could stand. Remember that one?
Yes. Oh, I love that line. Yes. At the beginning, there are all of these daydreams about, ooh, this could be, and that is so exciting to sort of envision new opportunities. And then you realize that you have no idea how to get them to fruition, and that in the meantime, there are things, your idea of doing this thing is not at all what doing this thing requires, or there is sort of additionally or differently required of you. And so you have to learn you didn't know you would have to learn.
You
And
don't know what
so
you don't know.
That's it. And that feeling, I think starts to feel a lot like watching a duckling, behind their mom. And, mom's swimming. Duckling is putting everything it can into the feet to churn along and try to stay in her wake. And I think that's sort of how I feel emotionally, is just churning, or like the cartoon character in Looney Tunes that does the whole the churn with the legs. Yes, before it takes off. So I think it is exciting, and then inevitably it is humbling and a little intimidating. And then at some point it gets to be, when I can get over myself and the sense of being inexpert, it can be, well, I'm here to learn. Let's see what we learn. And there's a lot of freedom in the I'm here to learn. I think of the Larry line, you're going to get something out of it.
You didn't expect.
Right?
Yeah, that's very good. And I think let us give credit to everybody willing to try something new and be bad at it.
Yes.
Because boy, you're going to find a lot of good if you're willing to try something new. I remember skiing and ice skating, not a lot, but that moment where I felt like, okay, this is why people do this. This is how it feels to be not falling. and wow, when you get even a whiff of a glimpse of, if not mastery, competence. And that's exciting.
Yes.
And my therapist, Dr. Cynthia, says your brain loves new things.
Novelty.
Like a dog loves a new toy. It engages it. It fires it up differently. It creates new neural pathways. So when we're willing to be uncomfortable to experience something new, go us.
Yes, and there's a lot of treasure on the other side of that dig. Yes.
If you never go, you'll never know. Yeah. Nice.
There's another T-shirt. Yes.
To add to our collection. We need to start generating swag one of these days.
Seriously.
What do you have to share with us today, Julie?
I have a poem entitled Desert Gods.
Ooh.
Because I was thinking of the tortoise, and it has a line about a tortoise, I thought I would try this one.
Marvelous.
So, Desert Gods. Where does a god of Gila monsters go when grass replaces grit, water withdraws from the wash as it's sprayed on demand, or saguaros are tortured as target practice? Where does a wren nest when an ache of space that used to burn clean, sweat clear, is plowed, planted, peopled, then asphalted to fester, foul its own air with stored heat? Is there a tortoise left to remember how the gods once stormed, dirt blown into billows, shadow sucked from the ground, thunder ringing, whipping wind, twisting sky like a sweaty towel? Has the sacred learned to slither, strike for tribute? Has it softened, become snowflake fluff of early creosote fruit, or the down of a rabbit's raised ears? Are the worshipped now walking courses in pleated pants, cleats, clawing at expat turf, conversation reduced to swing, having lost their grip? Are the desert gods already gone or going nowhere? Or have we, as dwellers, imported our deserts? Vast lack and fragility without adaptation, letting gods live large on prayers for protection from what we must solve for ourselves.
Wow.
And there we are.
Wow. You know, when I worked with Mike Schmidt at the Northern Arizona Bureau for Channel 3, I would knock out a script, and frequently he would read it and he would look at me and say, "Every day you amaze me." And it never got old.
Wonderful.
Never got tired of hearing it.
No, how could you?
But every time you read, you take my breath away. There's always something I think, my goodness, how does she find that and that and that? Just, and now I'm thinking, why on earth do I think, I'll read after Julie. That's going to work out.
Well, okay, but So I think the thing is that both of us have very unique voices, and sort of telltale voices in our writing. And one of the things that I love about your writing is that it is only you can write that because it is your voice coming through. And so it's
So this
kind
is not
of
a
you.
competition. It's
No,
just
and I think, and it's so much, and I think it's so much what you like and what you appreciate. And so when you write, I can hear you speaking to me. And so I think if you like my poems, it's because you like my voice.
well, that's one of the reasons. But okay, thank you very much. That's lovely. All right, I will go ahead and go.
So yes, turn about.
Okay, so this
Amaze us.
well, I don't know about that. So this comes from a 2003 Arizona Highways book called Chief Yellow Horse Lives On. And someday I'm sure there will be a segment about Chief Yellow Horse. But suffice to say that it has 52 essays, one for each week of the year. And this one is about afternoon tea. And I think this is the end of that essay. The timelessness is much of the appeal of afternoon tea. The water table may fall. Different world leaders may horrify us. Skin and hair will not always be as shiny and thick as they are today. But there will always be afternoon tea with many of the same trappings as Queen Victoria enjoyed, unaltered by microwaves, technology, or time. It is a reminder that all is not lost, that some things do remain the same in the ways that are the most important. When I look up from a plate of miniature sandwiches at the faces of the women with whom I am growing older, I still feel like a little girl at a tea party. Worries are suspended. We are cosseted, away from all things plebeian. Afternoon tea gives us a brief, shimmering, golden time to see and feel only what is good and beautiful, fortifying ourselves to go out once again and deal with the rest.
Oh, I love it.
So it occurs to me we almost gave a yin-yang to...
Yes, didn't we?
To change is
Here's
huge.
all the stuff we do wrong.
And not everything changes.
And check this out, what we do right. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Nice.
We really did. Cosseted is a word I don't hear often. But if anyone in my life would use it, it would be you.
But you sure know it, don't you? I mean, it's not onomatopoeic, but I don't think you would hear cosseted and wonder what that meant.
I love the observation too that, this is a time, tea time, sort of reserved for the good and the beautiful. We hear about dinner conversations, dinner table conversations.
Where you don't discuss politics or religion.
So, but tea time conversations having sort of their unique or specific topics too is sort of a lovely thought.
Gentility. Although, now I'm going to confess that there is a group of women that gather here every holiday season. I think it's been almost 30 years. And at one point, a couple of years ago, somebody said, "Remember how we used to always talk about sex? Now we talk about health." So I guess to some extent it depends on who you invite to tea. And
probably neither of those topics being Victorian, so we all move on.
Or, on the other hand, I don't think those are things that I would discuss at tea at the Phoenician. I think those are home tea topics. I think at the Phoenician it would be very different.
Yeah, sort of living room topics.
Yeah. That's a good word, good phrase.
Yeah, but I love this idea that here is a place that invites the celebration of the beautiful. That's really
depending
lovely.
Depending on how the holidays go this year, or not depending on the holidays at all. At some point, let's do tea.
We must do tea.
Okay.
We really must.
We will do tea.
Because and I think, we may have to see if the Phoenician can still keep up with you.
I bet it can. It has resources that probably make it not even a contest. But yeah, that would.
And by the way, I just have to so you had broached the idea of the resume of the obscure, that we should all have one of these, and I swear that will be a poetry chapbook someday, or short story collection, or I don't know. But I really think that needs to be a line about, I share with the Phoenician this one trait.
That is a very, very good resume of the obscure.
Love that.
I wouldn't have thought, so thank you for pointing that out. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, delightful as always, my dear.
Yes, thank you to listeners to be with you, exploring everything from A to Z.
Amen.
Look forward to talking again.
We'd really like to hear from you about anything this show led you to think about. Write to us at celebratingaz.com. The wizard behind making a conversation into a podcast is Tom Heidinger. The music comes from Daniel Blatney. And I'm Dana Cooper.